I believe that music is this beautiful analogy for relationships. When I say relationships, I mean in simplest terms, the distance between people. We all can look at our friend group, our social circles, our family, look at individual people and have a sense of how far or close they are to us. Um, Typically, our family members are closest. If you grow up with them, they know it's the best. Our friends are close, and we have acquaintances that are a little bit farther. And we might have people scattered in between those distances where we're not really as sure what our relationship to them is. We might even have people where we don't quite get along, or we feel like they're too close, you need to get out of my bubble type of thing, or people that you would like to be closer, but they are just too distant, too elusive. We can judge all our relationships in this way. What we can say about musical notes is that they are different distances away from each other as well, kind of in two directions. But what I'm going to first talk about is in how high or low they are, how high or low their frequency is. I want you to listen to these different intervals. I'm going to go from close to far, and you're going to see that closer isn't always better, farther isn't always better. There are just certain distances that seem to work better to our ears than other ones. And that's the beginning of learning music theory, is understanding which notes work together in a cohesive way. So here's the same note. Unison is what we call this. I'm just going to play a C, and then the same note. That's unison. That would be like your relationship to yourself, or an actual copy of you. Okay? And obviously, there's no dissonance there. It's very easy for our ear to process that. How about this distance? Okay? There's a lot more tension in this interval. And so when I say tension, I say that interval feels like that relationship between those two notes feels like it needs to change. Feels like, ooh, you could maybe be a little farther from me, and that would be nice. Or like, you need to be me. And then we have slightly bigger interval. That's them at the same time. Okay, and so there's still some tension there, but not so much compared to the first one. Okay, so we're getting a little farther. Then we get about here. And we start to hear these notes working together a little bit more. So this is that friend you have, or that family member that you have that knows you pretty well, but they're not you. And they're not too much just in your business, too much in your space. They're at a good distance from you. That would be this. How about the next slightly bigger interval? Okay, that's together, one at a time. We would say that these two that I just played are more at rest. There's less tension. We can leave them be. Like, that's cool. Let's be friends. Let's be that much friends. And you can kind of hang out there, and I'm gonna be happy. All right. Next interval, we're getting a little bit bigger. That also works. It's not a super exciting interval, but there's no problem there. There's no tension. You can hear some tension there, right? It's not super pleasant. So this might be a person that you just feel like maybe you're not sure whether you're acquaintances or friends. There's not a lot of clarity there. For example, it's like, are you just, can we just be friends? Or like, hey, can we just not? That's what I would relate this interval to. Okay, that's it. It feels like it needs to change. There's tension. There we go. There's something more stable, okay? So we're about here, maybe? I don't know if I'm getting my hands right here. Let's keep going. That works. Okay, how about this? That also works. And we start getting a little farther out. I feel some tension there. Right, the notes aren't quite working together. They need to move. The distance needs to change. A little bit bigger. Definitely tension, right? They're not working together great. So we adjust out of the tension and into an octave. Okay, and that's the same note. That's C again, but higher. C higher. And that's it's like a comfortable acquaintanceship. Okay, so you could try to describe each of these intervals as like a certain kind of relationship you have to somebody, if that's helpful for you. But main idea here again is that it's not the closer you are, the better you sound. It's not the farther you are, the better you sound. It's these specific spots as you move closer and farther that sound best. And then there's specific spots that don't work as well. Okay, and that's all actually just because of physics. It's the way that sound waves work. It's the way that they interact, and it's the way that our ear processes the interaction of those sounds. Okay, so I also want to say that music theory did not create these intervals. Music theory described these intervals better. This, we didn't make this sound good. Music theory didn't make this sound good. Music theory just found something that sounded good and tried to describe it. So a composer plays music with the knowledge of which intervals work, which intervals are tense, which intervals are relaxed, and plays with those. And that's how they create feeling in music, is moving in and out of tension. Okay, so again, I want to bring that back to the analogy of just relationships. Like our life is not exciting if everybody that's in our life is just always that exact same thing. We're always feeling closer to somebody, farther to somebody, and in just the next month or year, your whole social circle can change, or day to day you can feel closer and farther to different people. And that's what a good song does. It kind of shows us the narrative that we have. It shows us the stories of relationships, I think, just in this very simple way. It's just you have a note and you have another note, and playing one after the other or at the same time gives us a certain feeling of rest or tension. So that's the first thing that I would tell anybody is to just listen for those relationships. And as you play on your instrument, if you were just picking up guitar or just picking up piano, listen as you play for the intervals that sound good to you, and then remember what it feels like to play those intervals, and remember what it looks like to play those intervals. And if you can match the look and the feel of what playing it feels like, if you can match that with the sound, and then you can match that with the feeling, and then even better, you can describe that interval, which belongs to the look, feel, sounds, and describe that with a word, you're going to be better at speaking the language of music. So that's the important work that music theory does. It gives us a word for things. It gives us a rule to follow. It gives us some structure when playing with sound in its infinite possibilities with no structure would be very intimidating, very hard to figure out how to say what we really wanted to say. Even this like distance of 12 intervals that I just played over an octave, even that is a structured simplification of what is possible in music. And between those two notes actually is an infinite amount of sounds that could have been played, an infinite amount of frequencies. We didn't have to divide that into 12. That's just how the keyboard was built, and that's how most of our instruments were built. But you could chop up those distances smaller and 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 smaller. You could have 24 divisions, 30, 50, 100, but most of those wouldn't sound good. Music combed through and refined all of those possibilities into like the ones that are going to work for us the best as musicians. So we can be very thankful for all the music theory work that has been done before us, as we get to come to the subject of music with less to process, less to choose from, which somehow still leads to infinite musical possibilities.